Welcome, everybody. We will have our pledge led by our student representative, Ms. Sasha Hernandez from CAMS.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Sasha. As you may know, we have been without a student representative for many months, and we have missed the presence of the student perspective. So we are so pleased to have you here this evening. You are our first student back, and our first student during the COVID quarantine, lockdown, closure, all of that business. So I'm actually going to have you do your report after I open the meeting, because we want to be respectful of your time, knowing that this is a school night and that you most likely have work to do before you can rest tonight.
That's code for our meetings go long.
But you're welcome to stay if you're interested.
Yes. So we welcome those who are here for purposes of addressing the board at the proper time and in the order of their request. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. You may also make a request to give testimony on an item not listed for discussion today. However, full discussion on any items not listed on the agenda will have to be delayed until such a time as the item can be publicly posted in advance as a regular agenda item. If you wish to ask questions, please address them to the chair and not to individual members of the board or to the staff. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's closed session agenda. And in closed session today, the board voted to approve a resignation agreement and general release with a permanent certificated teacher, resolving all claims between the parties and providing for consideration. The vote was unanimous, with all 5 members of the board voting to approve. So, with that, let us have a report from Sasha Hernandez of CAMS.
Good evening. My name is Sasha Guadalupe Hernandez. I am the president of the Associated Student Body at the California Academy of Mathematics and Science, located on the California State University of Dominguez Hills campus in Carson, California. Thank you for giving me time to present to you all the State of School address today. During the week of August 11th, the staff prepared for the distribution of textbooks to the student body, and each class was assigned a certain day to come pick up their textbooks. However, no student actually stepped foot on campus. We are practicing social distancing by allowing the students to drive up, pick up their textbooks, while the staff would come back with their textbooks and give them their schedules. If there are any issues with their textbooks, as if they had changed their schedule or they were receiving the wrong textbook, they would inform their parent and they would come back with an appointment with administration on when to receive the right textbooks or make any exchanges. The process of picking up a textbook took no longer than 4 minutes. During that same week of August 11th, Link Crew had held their annual 9th grade orientation. This was a 3-day event, 2 hours each day, virtually on Zoom. We averaged at 200 students each day, 150 incoming 9th graders and 50 of our Link Crew leaders. This was held from 8:45 to 10:45 a.m. There were informational presentations for the incoming 9th graders, which included CAMS Expectations, which was an overview given by administration on the rules and regulations on the campus. Introduction to ASB and Class Board, which was when we would give a presentation on ASB and Class Board, the differences between both and how you can get involved in either one. We gave the students a virtual tour of the campus where they were given information on all the buildings offered at school and the support that they could receive. They were presented with the different clubs at CAMS and which ones they can, how they can join the clubs that they would like to and the different types of clubs. Electives, an overview of the electives that we offer at CAMS. Sports, which sports we offer at CAMS and how they can join our teams. Yearbook, which is an overview on the class itself and how they can join. Tips for Succeeding at CAMS, which was a presentation made by our Lean Crew leaders, and it was giving tips to the incoming ninth graders on how they can stay stress-free while still succeeding at a school like CAMS. And although it sounds like a very busy 2 hours of each day, we were given a lot of feedback from the ninth grade students saying that that orientation was very insightful. It gave them a better understanding of CAMS, and it made them feel very comfortable starting off the school year, especially since it was virtual. On August 18th, that was the start of the school year for our Rebels, which was about a month or so earlier than most of the other schools in Long Beach. And during the first couple of weeks of school to now, we've had many events, and we started with election week, which is to determine who would be a part of the class of 2024 executive class board. We had our fall club applications. We received around 30 applications from incoming clubs to new clubs. We hosted fall games, which was hosted virtually for the first time ever, and we had a lot of games played throughout the week, and some including Minecraft and Among Us. Participation was promising, and we received feedback on how we can improve it for upcoming events. And this past Friday, we had a resume workshop for our students on how they can write up a resume for jobs, scholarships, and things of the sort. This week, right now, we are hosting Red Ribbon Week, which is to spread awareness on the harmful effects of drugs and alcohol that can cause to the body. And this is followed by dress-up days and games to go along with this theme. Some upcoming events that we have are Jaw Wars, where students can submit a drawing based off a number of themes. This is going to be in a tournament style, and the winner will receive a prize. Coming soon, we have Spirit Week, where students can show off their school spirit by dressing up, playing games, and supporting their class throughout the week. And this is also going to be CAMS' first ever esports event. We also have Winterfest, where students can submit videos of them giving performances, and they can participate in winter-themed games and dress-up days. We will also have Career Day, where students will be exposed to a variety of different career paths and explored what is offered from them. And last, we have Home Appreciation, where students can share the good side of being home during quarantine. These are all events hosted by ASB coming up for the 2020 year. The participation has been very promising. However, it is expected to increase as the months progress by receiving student feedback and increasing our promotion of these activities. Early in the 2020 school year, the class of 2020 held some events for their seniors. They had diploma pickups. However, this was social distance, as they also did a drive-through manner where the students would drive up and pick up their diplomas. Our staff members celebrated by cheering them on as they drove by. They had virtual movie nights, which was held on Zoom, and the movies were chosen by a vote from the class. And they were also given senior packages, which had a hoodie, a panoramic picture of their class, a pennant, a roll-up blanket, a face mask, a lanyard, a travel mug, and plush graduation bears. The theme for this package was their class color and mascot, which are the Red Griffins. In terms of academics, the classrooms are run as they usually are, except it is virtual and on Zoom. The teachers introduce the topic of the day, they give the lesson, and they assign the work and allow for students to complete this work during the last half hour or so of class. Despite the challenges, teachers have offered aid for students to help them in their academics, and students are persevering and working very hard. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I had to say today. If you have any questions, comments, and/or concerns on the well-being of our students, school activities, and/or academics, I would gladly take them, or you can refer to our principal, Ms. Cornejo. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, and we do appreciate you being here. Okay, this is the time set aside for public hearing regarding the following: sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. Do we have any comments related to these items?
I think we do, Madam.
Okay. Yes, we do. Okay. So, Tonya would like to speak to this.
Hello, my name's Tonya. I just have a few quick comments today, but before I begin, I just wanted to say that I'm concerned to see the number of employees on FMLA, as they are about 4 pages, or close to 100 employees that have requested leave of absences. I hope people don't jump to the conclusion that our schools are not safe, but instead think about the various family situations that may exist in LBUSD's large employee base and try to empathize with what the staff may be going through right now. But I am here and I'm interested in hearing about the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional material, and I hope the hearing resolves any concerns and answers any questions parents may have. I hope this also includes an update about electronic equipment and technology during this public hearing. State law SB 820 requires all school districts to assess, publicly report, and correct any institutional materials insufficiencies, including pupil lack of access to devices and internet connectivity. I'm especially concerned because the west side of the district is the most affected by the lack of connectivity. I was at Cabrillo High School today. The Boys and Girls Club was having a food distribution effort this morning, and the Boys and Girls Club directors were concerned and complaining about the high cost of internet at that site. They provide homework help and services for students and the community, and if they're concerned, then imagine the Cabrillo area parents that have to get internet for their students. For their children. According to studies, 37% of Black, 39% of Latinx, and 25% of Pacific Islanders, students under age of 18 in LA County lack a computer and a high-speed internet at home. All 3 of these groups reside in high numbers in Area 2. I know that this is to be true because trying to get in touch with families always has been challenging in West Long Beach. Although it's been 10 years, even as a council person, when I would have community meetings where hundreds of residents would show up, I usually would only get about 2 or 3 email addresses on the sign-up sheet, and most were their children's email addresses from school. I'm also concerned about the lack of assistive technology for our special needs students population, as students with disabilities may need additional electronic devices to access the curriculum. It would be great to get numbers from LBUSD, students disaggregated by race, ethnicity, low income, English learner, homeless, student, and foster youth, so we can be sure that all communities are adequately served. I look forward to seeing additional data so our community can feel assured that all students are receiving the instructional materials and textbooks, electronic equipment, and assistive technology that they may need to succeed, especially in this COVID area. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say, or staff's presentation on the textbooks and the connectivity. Thanks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I believe that's our only speaker for the hearing. Because that says item number 15.
Yeah, 15 is public hearing.
Oh, sorry. Our next speaker is Mariela.
This is still on the public hearing aspect?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, good evening. It's been a while.
Hello.
My name's Mariela Salgado, and I'm here to speak on item number 15 and 20 on behalf of Nicole Gon Ochi, an attorney for public advocates. I just want to mention yesterday I was part of the budget forum, and I heard a story that was kind of, I didn't know what to feel because I was surprised by hearing it. And it was either a teacher or a staff member from Cabrillo High who said that they had students who still hadn't received their hotspots at Cabrillo since August. So when I think about this item number, sufficiency of textbooks or materials, instructional materials, I think about whether we're really being, whether the data is showing that we in fact have everything we need for these students to be in class. So let me go on and say, I am writing to provide public comment on item number 15 and 25 regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. In recognition that having a device and a reliable internet connection is necessary for every child to receive a quality public education. SB 820 amended the definition of instructional materials to include electronic equipment, such as laptops and hotspots. Therefore, all school districts, including LBUSD, must publicly report and correct instructional materials insufficiencies, including a lack of access to devices and connectivity. The resolution on the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials that you are supposed to vote on this evening lacks any information about the sufficiency of devices, hotspots, and the technical support necessary to access the digital educational curriculum and instruction. Therefore, it is not appropriate to vote on this resolution this evening. Instead, staff should revise the resolution to include information about devices, connectivity, and access to technical support necessary, and having a public hearing only after providing the public with all the required information. Helpful information to include on the sufficiency of devices and connectivity include, but is not limited to, the number of students who did not receive technology and the status of efforts to reach them, the number of students still waiting for a hotspot, the number of students still waiting for a device, the number of students who miss class more than once a week because of technology problems, the number and type of technology complaints received by technology TOSAs, and the number of devices and hotspots distributed compared to the total number of students enrolled in the district, taking care not to double count when devices are returned because they are not functioning. Given the inequities in access to technology, we request that any information provided by disaggregated by race, ethnicity, and program subgroup, low income, English learner, homeless student, and foster youth. And if I may add, I also like to say that students with disability may need other devices as well.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Okay, we have no further speakers, but Dr. Kale, did you have anything to add to the public hearing on the textbooks and instructional materials?
Do you want me to do it now or when we get to the resolution?
We can do it for the resolution. Like, okay. Okay, then I think we'll move on. We have no further speakers for public hearing. Agenda items.
Move approval.
Second?
Discussion.
Ms. Craighead, we'd like to pull item number 15 from the Purchasing and Contracts Report A.
Okay.
Which item?
Item number 15 on the Purchasing and Contracts Report A.
Okay, so that's what we will be voting on. We will be voting on the amended agenda to reflect item number 15 being pulled. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Approval of minutes.
Second.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Communications. We have Wendy, wait, did you want me to start with this? Okay. We have Wendy Whelan and Valerie Hayward, And, wait, do we have Wendy? Yeah, I don't think we have Wendy.
Annette.
Yeah,
Castlebar.
I know, that doesn't match up with the names I had. Sorry, Annette. I know you were here, I saw you, yeah, I saw you earlier, I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't match. I just wanted to let you know that we appreciate this prestigious honor. Oh, I'm going to read that afterwards. I'm going to let you speak, because I'm not doing a very good job over here.
That's okay.
So, after you, Annette.
Thank you. President Craighead, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Baker, members of LBUSD, and guests. I'm Annette Cashwabara, the Executive Director of Assistance League of Long Beach. Valerie Hayward, President of the Board of Directors at Assistance League of Long Beach, and I are pleased to be here today to provide an update of Operation School Bell and to present a very special award. Last year, Operation School Bell provided more than 12,500 LBUSD students in need with new school uniforms and school supplies. Many of the students served also received a book courtesy of Barnes & Noble and City National Bank. It was the largest number of students that we've been able to serve through Operation School Bell. Because of the pandemic, our efforts quickly pivoted to continue serving students by providing school supplies or hygiene kits to children in need. We are looking forward to expanding the program even further and are currently working with a few schools right now to provide this program. We continue to be your partner in service to help many of your students. Thank you for the wonderful partnership and support that we receive in order to serve thousands of children in need.
And I'm Valerie Hayward, and I'm president of the board, Assistance League of Long Beach. We're celebrating our 80th anniversary this year, and continuing our mission to Assistance League volunteers, transforming the lives of children and adults through community programs. We are pleased to be here today to present Superintendent Jill Baker and President of the Board of Education, Diana Craighead, with National Assistance League's Operation School Bell Award. This is a national award. This honor is to honor those in the community who, through either significant financial, in-kind, or service support, have had a direct, powerful, and positive effect on Operation School Bell, thus warranting the recognition from National Assistance League. Long Beach Unified School District has been Operation School Bell's biggest advocate for many years and has helped us in numerous ways, and I'd like to share a few of those ways that the district has been a wonderful partner in serving and helping students in need. Long Beach Unified School District has always obliged when we requested assistance in promoting Operation School Bell to school administrators. Because of that, we have been present at principals' meetings early in the school year in order to explain how to access our services. Particularly helpful was the district's assistance delivering student backpacks. On average, we pack about 1,000 backpacks or more on a packing day. In the past, our members have had to load their cars and caravan over to the schools for delivery. We reached out to the district, and they immediately had their fleet maintenance manager contact us. Over the past few years, we have been working with the fleet maintenance manager to help deliver the backpacks to 2 or more schools in one day. Students have been receiving their school uniforms more quickly. This past year, the district worked closely with us to address the food insecurity issues in our community. Operation School Bell collaborated with our Sistines Auxiliary in piloting the Adopt a Family Student Food Program, long title. Okay, Dr. Baker offered both her personal and professional support of the pilot project while working with our Sistines member volunteers. The project was to pack beans, rice, and seasonings into 5,000 food packets that would later be distributed to district students. On the day of the event, former Superintendent Chris Steinhauser, Dr. Baker, and Mr. Mark Chavez from the Nutrition Department, members of the school board, and other district volunteers helped with packing the food for the program. And you can imagine, yes, in hairnets and gloves. These are just a few of the outstanding recent examples of how we have worked hand in hand with LBUSD. Long Beach Unified School District is the epitome of a strong supporter and partner of our programs. We are honored to work with such an exemplary school district, and we are pleased to present the National Operation School Bell Award at this time.
Hold on, because we have a commendation for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, you got to finally present this. It's been in the works since.
Thank you. We deeply appreciate this prestigious award and the partnership with the Assistance League. I am humbled by this award on behalf of the district. It seems like we should be giving you an award. Last year, you provided 12,000 uniforms. I know in previous years, it's been consistently at 10,000. You provide endless opportunities for volunteering for our community, for our teens, our students. You provide dental help. Long Beach, as a school system, went to uniforms in 1994. And the Assistance League has been with us, helping every step of the way. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. So I am very pleased to accept this on behalf of the district, and also happy to present you with the commendation as a token of our appreciation, and just to let you know how much we value the partnership. So
Madam
thank you
Chair.
both. Yes.
Just a few comments. Annette, in addition to being my classmate, Leadership Long Beach, I just really can't express what Operation School Bell has meant to so many of our kids, and we've expressed that so often, many times, that it's been a difference maker for those kids to be able to have uniforms and walk into the classroom and not think about what kinds of appearance they have because of their clothing, but they can focus. And that has been a genuine gift from your organization. And for all the years that you've been there for us and for our kids, it's been amazing, and you're still running strong. We really appreciate all you do, not just with respect to uniforms and books, but all the other things that you give to our kids so that they can have an advantage when they walk into the classroom. And so much of our success is because of the work that you do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Meyer.
Very eloquent, Dr. Williams and Madam President. We have many friends in Long Beach, the Long Beach Unified School District does, but you are surpassed by none. We cannot thank you enough for what you've done for our schools and our school children. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have to say, it's so nice to have such a positive start to the meeting. First, a student representative, and now Assistance League. It feels so uplifting. Okay, next we go to public testimony on items listed on the agenda, but we have none. I know we have a lot of people here in person, so we will go to public testimony on items not listed on the agenda. We will start with Jerlene, and then Robbie, Allison on deck in honor of the World Series tonight. Robbie, Allison on deck.
Good evening. My name is Jerlene Tatum, OBUSD parent, speaking on a few non-agendized items. First, I have a question. On 9/12, decisions were made regarding public comment. So my question is, what is the status of the public comment? Will public comment be accepted via voicemail? Budget engagement process. Last night, I participated in the online budget engagement forum, and I participated from the YouTube, not from the login. So, of course, I could not see who was actually logged on, but based upon the level of participation, I know some of the parents that were logged in at that time. And our question is, how are you going to engage more parents in that process or more stakeholders in that process? From what I gathered, there was about 30 people participating, and at least 6 of those were staff identified. So again, and then there were comments. I think the max amount of comments, there are people that were participating in the commenting process was about 16 people. So we got 16 people giving commentary and input on 70,000 children. So the question is, how are you going to expand that engagement process? And Pupil Free Day. I am the mother of a first grader, a very busybody 6-year-old. And Pupil Free Day was very confusing for us. One, I noticed when I talked to other parents, there wasn't a consistency in the way attendance was gathered. I was required to inform the teacher that my child had logged in and did certain work to get as points for attendance. Other parents did not have that same requirement at their school. But then I asked, was it a pupil-free day for the teachers? Because it wasn't a pupil-free day for the students, so why am I having to give attendance when I'm solely responsible for my child on that learning day? So the whole process has been a little bit interesting. I noticed the school renamed it from pupil-free day to asynchronous day. So I was like, oh, so that means I'm responsible for my child's learning this day. Again, it's confusing, yet, I kind of made a joke. Am I going to get paid for those 2 days that I am responsible for solely teaching my child? So, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. After Robbie, we have Dan DiCarlo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robbie. I'd like to thank you all for listening to our concerns. A little about me. I'm a resident of Long Beach, a CSULB graduate. I'm a business owner, a Little League coach, but most importantly, I'm a concerned father. My daughter is 10 years old, and she attends Los Cerritos Elementary School in District 1. I talk a lot about these issues with my family and friends, and it's now time to put those words into action. I'm here to discuss how distance learning is affecting my daughter and why we need to get our kids back to school now. I can understand the position you all are in. You can't please everyone all the time, and certain decisions can have different effects on different people. My daughter loves school, and she's good at it. She's very compassionate and very understanding. For example, in 3rd grade, a new student came into her class. The new student was scared and nervous. The teacher, understanding my daughter's personality traits, specifically asked her to sit with the new girl and to talk to her and make her feel comfortable. They were inseparable all day long. Why have I told you this story? Since distance learning, I've noticed a difference with my daughter. When she has opportunities to play outside or put in a situation where she gets to hang out with cousins, friends, or family, she gets very anxious. She gets stomach aches as if she's going to be sick. She sweats and becomes very apprehensive. In order to put her mind at ease and curb these reactions, I've done a lot of research on the subject of COVID-19. I have to say that from the moment all this started, I felt like something wasn't right. I've since been proven right. This was sold to us in March when Dr. Fauci, I call him Dr. Fraud, said we would need to shut down for 2 weeks in order to keep from overwhelming the hospitals. 6 months later, look where we are. A few weeks ago, the CDC updated the survival rates for COVID-19, if you were even infected. This begs the question as to why the school shutdowns, when seasonal flu is far more deadly than this thing is, especially to kids. And we don't shut down schools for the seasonal flu, do we? It's painfully obvious that this is political and it is a disservice to our little people. It's September, the CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, and the New England Journal of Medicine stated schools can reopen safely. So I would like to know what information the Long Beach Health Department and the Long Beach School Board have that the CDC, AAP, and NEGM do not have, that have led to distance learning until January 2021. We need to reopen our schools now. Finally, school is a safe place for a lot of kids. It is where physical activity thrives. It is where successful relationships are made and can endure for years and years. It is a place where mental health issues can be addressed and where child abuse can be reported. These realities have all but been taken away completely. I'm not only here for my daughter, but for the well-being of all of our kids.
I'm sorry.
Get us back to school now. Thank you.
Thank you. After Dan, we have Dove.
Good evening. My name is Dan DiCarlo, and I'm the father of a junior at Millikan. I'm here to challenge this board to be courageous and take affirmative steps to get our kids in school the day after Thanksgiving break. We can't have an intellectually honest discussion about schools until we accept the science as it relates to the virus and its impact on children. The facts are unequivocal. Children are at virtually no risk for health consequences from COVID. Research from Brown University concluded that the infection rate among children in schools now is about 0.071%. That means if you opened Poly today, you might expect 4 positive tests. And what's the likely consequence to those 4 students who test positive? There's virtually no chance that any of those kids will be negatively impacted. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, 18 states have not recorded a single death to a person under 18. The CDC has determined that only 74 kids under 15 have died since the pandemic began in March. Every life is precious, folks, but 74 deaths is not the reason to close schools. If Long Beach schools were to open tomorrow, it is not an exaggeration to say the commute our children would go make in school would be more dangerous than being in school. We know that this board has heard endless pleas from parents and medical personnel urging the kids to be put back in school. Substantial mental issues, including anxiety and depression, are skyrocketing. The last line of defense to many helpless children is the reporting structure that schools offer. That structure has been obliterated because schools are closed, because kids are not being observed by teachers who can detect abuse, and because kids have no one to turn to. Kids have quite literally become captors to their abusers. Special needs children are being victimized the most. For those who say we need to be cautious, we need to be prudent, and hence keep our kids out of school. Well, how can that philosophy be reconciled with the data? To those that espouse that view, I ask you, is it prudent to deprive kids of an education instead of contributing to all these ills? Yes, I know. We're stuck with the county. The county controls this. Until we move from purple to red, we're helpless. I say nonsense, folks. Long Beach has its own health department. I challenge this board, form a committee tonight with the stated goal of lobbying the county to get Long Beach out of the jurisdiction of LA County. The deprivation of a constitutionally guaranteed education to our children is unconscionable. You were each elected to be leaders, and leadership begins to listening to your constituencies. The message delivered to you week after week is loud and clear. Students and their parents want their kids in school. This board needs to be courageous and take serious stock in what you're hearing from your constituency. Please listen to the cries from those you are sworn to lead. History is listening and watching. Make the day after Thanksgiving break your goal to get these kids back in school. Thank you.
Thank you. After Dove, we have Sarah.
Good evening. My name is Dove Mayo, and I'm a parent of 2 Long Beach Unified School District students. I'm here today as a mother advocating for all Long Beach students. Tonight I'm going to talk about one subgroup of the 70,000 students, the over 20,000 high school students. Many of these students are feeling desperate, discouraged, and disappointed because their lives have become a sick game of whack-a-mole. You've denied them music, sports, dances, and other high school experiences. While some of these obstacles are not the district's fault, it's upsetting to watch other high schools resume on-campus activities while our students are denied these opportunities. I've heard firsthand that high school students are trying to participate in clubs by sneaking away and meeting up at parks so they can stay connected to their school. These students are desperate for social interaction. By denying them the opportunity to meet safely on campus, they are experiencing forms of depression, anxiety, hopelessness, and fear. In speaking to many high school parents, we are requesting immediate action from the board in the following area. Allow students to participate on campus with their school groups, especially clubs and band. Sports conditioning practices are allowed. Why are not clubs? Many high schools have large outdoor quads and football fields that the students could easily sit 6 feet apart. We have learned there is a safe way for students to sing and play instruments. If they are outside wearing masks and have bell covers on their instruments, this is being done safely in high schools and colleges all over the country. This should not be a daunting task for you guys. I'm sure it's a matter of hours that you can put together guidelines to let clubs and groups meet safely on campus. You already have guidelines set up for sports. Why not clubs? Give these kids a chance to safely participate in social interaction that embodies high school. Students and parents are done accepting your excuses, especially the flu season excuse. We live in a sunny, warm, year-round climate. Many of these activities can be done safely outside. Experts are saying the virus is not going away. I beg you to find a way to let high school students return on campus to participate in the various clubs and organizations that give them a sense of purpose during their high school years. Thank you.
Thank you. After Sarah, we have Laura.
Hi again, Sarah Cameron Bennett. We can do hard things. So standing here before you for the 3rd time, it's hard. Through the COVID pandemic, people all over the world have been asked to do very hard things. A mom of a middle schooler reached out to me a few days ago to tell me about her hard. A son who has lost significant weight and then was on suicide watch because of depression associated with online learning. How many more kids are in the same situation? I spoke with a therapist yesterday, we've heard from many, and she talked about how hard it is to see so many kids suddenly struggling with anxiety and depression. Hard is leaving your child alone all day to learn in a bedroom by themselves because you have to go to work. But we can do hard things. Hard is figuring out how to reopen schools for 500,000 kids, but New York can do hard things. Hard is putting testing and social distancing protocols in place to keep students safe. But our neighbors in Orange County, they can do hard things. And then the kids. Kids do hard things all the time. It's hard to learn to read when you are 5 years old. It's hard to be the first in your family to graduate from high school. It's hard to apply to college. But kids do hard things all the time. So I guess we should just expect them to do this hard thing. We should expect them to be able to put online learning into focus, to set aside their social well-being, and just power through, because that is what you have told them they must do until at least January 28th. LA County appears to be on its way to the red tier. Positivity rates are where they need to be, and while case rates bounce around a bit, it seems that we are headed in the right direction. But regardless of this data, you've determined a course for our kids that has sequestered them to online learning from March of 2020 until at least January of 2021. And in the meantime, you have given them the hardest thing to overcome: uncertainty and helplessness. So do something that isn't hard. Communicate to the parents of your 70,000 students. Be transparent about your process, your phasing in, and your progress towards reopening our schools. I am asking you to add an item to every board meeting agenda that updates the community on your reopening plan and progress. I'm asking our superintendent to be the leader you are and to speak to us at least every 2 weeks. Tell us, if on January 28th, LA County is in the red tier, are our schools ready for our kids? Can you tell us that you have support from your labor representatives to participate in hybrid learning? Tell us that you are going to follow through with your promise to give our kids a choice. It just doesn't seem that hard. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. After Laura, we have Pamela.
Hello, my name is Laura Adams, and I have 2 kids in this district, 3rd and kinder. Last March, my 8-year-old son, suffered severe mental breakdown 1 week from being sent home from school during the lockdown, developing anxiety-induced tics, tremors, anxiety-induced hallucinations, and chronic panic attacks that lasted for months. He regressed again at the start of online school this fall. We recently pulled him from this 6-hour computer learning model that the district offers that is not appropriate for young children. As a mom, I had to do what was best for my son for his mental and medical needs. Today, I'd like to read a letter from his brilliant grandfather, who is the retired pediatric rehab brain injury doctor of Miller's Children's Hospital, director of adult brain injury rehab at Memorial, and associate clinical professor of University of California, Irvine. To whom it may concern, I am writing this letter on behalf of my 2 grandsons and all of the children of LBUSD. The odds are that COVID-19 virus may be with us for a very long time, especially since it does not seem to be seasonal like other COVID viruses, and many Americans will decline to have themselves or their children vaccinated. There are many reasons children and adolescents should return to school in spite of this ongoing pandemic. Even the director of the WHO recently stated that mandatory lockdowns are more damaging to people's well-being rather than the risk of catching the virus. As a grandfather of an 8-year-old grandson, I experienced firsthand his psychological trauma the lockdown caused him. It resulted in a very scary situation and hopefully has not resulted in permanent emotional issues. I fear many parents will find that online teaching will not fulfill the needs of their children, resulting in an exodus of children to go to private schools or other districts that are open. This will cause, obviously, financial losses for LBUSD, and parents should have the choice, not be mandated. I think we need to remind ourselves schools provides more than just academics. Students learn social and emotional skills as their brains continue to develop. They need physical exercise. They need access to mental health support and other services that Zoom cannot accomplish. I think you have lost sight that decisions not only need to be made by science, but also balanced by social economic factors in which, in the long term, can cause more permanent harm and damage to our most precious resource, our kids. As a father, grandfather, and physician, I implore you, LBUSD, and the health department to work together in implementing the steps necessary to reopen our schools with the appropriate safety measures in place, which will decrease the risk to our children and our staff. There are many school districts doing this in the United States and in the world, and have been successful in doing so. It will be a work in progress, but it must be done.
Thank you, but your time is up. That's
Dr.
great.
Hugh Richard Adams, thank you.
Thank you. After Pamela, we have Heather.
Hi, my name is Pamela, and I'm going to be reading a letter of somebody who couldn't be here today. My name is Michelle Cook, and I'm an ER nurse. Me and my family support in-person classroom learning. I'm asking you to put aside politics and fear, to look at facts and science. Put a plan in place to make education essential and to protect our teachers by providing them N95 masks, sanitizing wipes, and hand sanitizer. Checking temperatures of students and staff with plexiglass in between student desks. Teachers and students who want to return to the classroom should be allowed to, and others can teach and be taught online. Think about the children who are our future. Put them first. Put our future first and reopen Long Beach schools. I say this because I know about COVID exposure. Only a few of our staff have been infected, and only a few were potentially work-related. Most of them got it from a relative not in the health field, and only one hospitalized for a few days, and no ER employee deaths. We work 12 hours a day exposed. We put on our full PPE when there are patients who are exhibiting or complaining of symptoms. Otherwise, patients are not isolated. I've been around my family from the start, shower after work, and wash my clothes immediately. None of my family are ill. Teachers could wear N95 masks while in the classroom, and students wear regular masks. Hand hygiene is not a difficult task, and a quick wipe of a desk can be done by students. I'm seeing too many children and young adults coming to the ER with depression and outbursts of frustration and crying. I hear parents say their children are doing poorly academically, emotionally, and socially. An example of this is my son. He has attention deficit disorder and executive function disorder. He was doing so well going into his senior year. He had ambitions and was looking forward to college. The district went into online distance learning, and my son was devastated. Refused medication, wasn't eating, depressed, isolated, and the regression of his illness started. We barely got him to graduate. He felt his ability to learn online was so challenging that he couldn't do it and would fail. Thus, he is enlisted in the Navy. He says this is all because of online learning. He has a learning disability that needs in-person learning, as many students do. Online learning isn't for everybody. Children and young adults especially, people with special needs, have difficulty with it and especially need peer socialization. His psychiatrist and psychologist feel he has been directly negatively affected by forced online learning. He's not alone. There are thousands of children and young adults being negatively affected by forced online learning. It's absolutely not the same as in-person learning. These students are being harmed emotionally, socially, and their education is being greatly affected by forced online learning. Please tell us what your plan is to open schools. I also have a 9-year-old. Because of online learning, she's had to take Advil, Tylenol, Motrin every single day because of headaches from eye strain. We've adjusted her computer, we got her the special blue light glasses, and she still cannot handle this. We need you guys to really think about our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. After Heather, we have Melanie.
My name is Heather Clements. I'm a third grade teacher, and I will be celebrating my 24th year with the district this December. At the last board meeting, you spoke in regards to your efforts to bring students back slowly and safely. This gave teachers, parents, and students hope as we take a step in the right direction. I wanted to share with you a day in the life of a virtual teacher to ensure that bringing students back remains an urgent matter. As teachers, we spend hours creating lessons that are engaging and rigorous, utilizing a virtual platform. I would like to remind you that planning lessons virtually takes twice as long as in-person lessons to plan and implement. After many teachers have spent long, tedious hours creating lessons, despite our efforts, students are getting kicked off Zoom, the internet is down, or they have various other technical difficulties while teachers are presenting these lessons. During class, when teachers request a verbal response from students, they sound like robots due to the poor connection. Because of this, we cannot communicate with our students any other way than through the chat, and sometimes that doesn't even work. Every day, these challenges leave teachers, parents, and students frustrated and discouraged. I am saddened for my students and near tears. I'm delivering the best instruction I can, but students cannot access it. I have never been more heartbroken. When I check in with students, they are feeling the same as I am. Parents message me that their children are crying because they are struggling with the online material and learning platform. Students' discouragement is at an all-time high due to so many issues that are beyond my ability to solve. My heart hurts for my students on a daily basis. I spend hours during and after school trying to solve their connectivity issues so they can receive my instruction. Even after 6 months, we are still having connectivity and computer issues. Even the students who have good connections are not thriving with this platform. They need to feel connected to a teacher and build relationships that only a classroom environment can provide. A student could have the strongest internet connection and a great computer, but because there are so many students on the internet in a small area, the bandwidth is limited because of the pull on the server. Again, something out of our control. Promising to provide better technology for students does not solve the problem. What will solve the problem is opening our classrooms with face-to-face instruction, placing students and teachers in a thriving environment, which is a classroom. Teachers can receive high-quality training, and we can be amazing online teachers, but again, this does not replace in-person instruction. LBUSD is known to be innovative and strategic in planning for success. Let us be a model of reopening schools safely for everyone, especially for our students who are our #1 priority. Thank you.
Thank you. After Melanie, we have Jennifer.
That will be our last speaker.
Oh, Jennifer will be our last, oh, Melanie will be the last one.
No, Jennifer, sorry.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and I have 4 Long Beach Unified School District students. 2 of my children are in Iowa this week because my senior is taking the ACT in our old school district, where the schools are open with masks and they have had successful sports seasons. Teachers, families, school board, and community members have all worked together to make it possible. They are putting kids first. This month in New York City, the largest school district in the United States, the center of the COVID crisis in our country, 500,000 students returned to in-person school. They did this by working extremely hard and putting kids first. In LA County, although we remain in Tier 1, we are now reopening indoor malls, nail salons, breweries, and card rooms. The superintendent from Los Angeles Unified School District and from Palos Verdes have been publicly questioning LA County Health Department's opening strategies and why they are prioritizing in-person malls and breweries over schools. These superintendents are asking tough questions like, how are these businesses allowed to be open if we're still in Tier 1? Are they also required to follow the strict guidelines for reopening that schools have to meet? So why are other school boards questioning the priorities of the LA County Health Department and our school district is silent? In a discussion online with someone, they commented to me, "You care more about opening schools than you do about keeping people alive." I would adamantly say that this is certainly not the case. I am a strong supporter of mask wearing and social distancing, and I would argue that the reason LA County has chosen to reopen indoor malls, breweries, nail salons, and card rooms is because they know that it is safe to do so with mask wearing. The reason our school district has already opened schools for early childhood education and allowed in-person sports to practice in high schools is not because they care less about those teachers or coaches' lives. It's because we know that we can do it safely. In a T-shirt Tuesday video posted by Tiffany Brown yesterday, she shares the encouraging mantra that you can do hard things, she says. She says part of having a growth mindset is saying, this is hard, this isn't what I would choose, but I can do it anyway. I can move forward anyway. So I would say to all of you, as Tiffany says to all of our families, instead of the district saying, we can't do this isn't going to work, let's aim to move forward. Even if it doesn't look exactly like the schools we're used to, let's move forward with a plan in place because I believe all of you can do hard things too. I believe that you can work harder to get these kids back in person. Keeping the schools closed is causing the most harm to students and families who were already struggling before this pandemic. It is widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Families who have the resources are able to offer the most support to their children, but many students are being left behind. Long Beach Unified School District, please follow the example of other school districts and start showing leadership and advocating for the children that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jennifer's the last.
Jennifer, and then that's our time on that item.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Parkin. In the process of advocating for my child and her special needs education, I was informed by my board representative that the district does not consider my child to be a part of the special education program because she is enrolled in a regular mainstreamed classroom. This assertion would be laughable if it weren't downright insulting and false. According to our official IEP paperwork, our daughter entered the special education program on August 8th, 2014, when she was 3 years old, and she has qualified for special education services every year since. Everyone involved in special education knows that you don't have to be enrolled in a special day class to receive special education services. This is common knowledge, so I have a hard time believing that the district administrators in charge of special education don't understand the distinction. In reality, district administrators have access to my daughter's IEP, and they know that my daughter is enrolled in the special education program. I know this because the district sent me a prior written notice in which they listed all of the services my daughter receives and was signed by the Director of Special Education. Consequently, I would like to inform this body that the Department of Special Education actively misled my District Board of Education representative on my daughter's special education status. Federal law requires that students with disabilities receive their education in the least restrictive environment possible with non-disabled peers, and further stipulates that students can only be removed from regular classes for services that cannot be achieved satisfactorily in the general education environment. The Long Beach Unified District is well aware of federal law and all of its provisions, so why are they willing to mislead Board of Education members and families about special education eligibility? What do they have to gain by deceiving? Does the district believe that they can silence special education families by claiming that children don't qualify for special education based on personal opinion? If a child has a current IEP, they qualify to receive special education services whether it's convenient for the Long Beach Unified School District or not. And intimidating families with legal documents and misinformation is immoral and possibly illegal. There are thousands of children currently enrolled in the special education program in the district. The disabilities represented by these children cover a spectrum of diagnoses. The range of disabilities is as unique and diverse as the individuals who possess them, and accordingly, the services provided by the district range widely and stretch beyond the confines of a special day class. Dismissing the needs and concerns of a special ed student because an administrator thinks they don't qualify for services based on personal opinion instead of legal documentation is a violation of federal law. If the district were as focused on providing services as they were on denying them, our children would be back in school receiving the quality education they deserve. Once again, I call on the school board to stand up for the rights of children in the Long Beach Unified School District. Do what district administrators are unwilling or unable to do. Be a voice for the voiceless. Fight for those who have no power. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all we have time for public comment on items not listed on the agenda. We move to staff report. We have none. Business items, personnel. Dr.
Yes,
Williams.
Madam Chair. I have the personnel report prepared by our Assistant Superintendent of HR, David Zaid, approved by our Superintendent, Joe Baker. We'll read the classified portion of the report first. There were 15 appointments, 99 leaves of absence, and perhaps David could provide some clarification on those 99 leaves of absence. David?
I think we need to get him to a microphone. We didn't have any more time. Yeah, we had 3 more.
So just to provide clarification on the 99 applications for leave of absence, this is emergency FMLA. Emergency FMLA is provided as a part of the 2 COVID, if you will, leaves that were provided by state and federal. The other one is emergency sick leave. But this emergency FMLA is specifically provided for parents of school-aged children who need to provide care for their children because the school is closed. These leaves can be taken in 1-week increments, and as you see by the leaves, several of the individuals have applied for leave, some going from 1 week all the way up to a maximum of 12 weeks. So there is a variation here, and some are reapplying because they didn't need the full 12 weeks. They might have only needed 1 week here or 1 week there. So that's why we have a higher number.
Thank you, David. There were 4 abandonments of position, 2 terminations of service, 7 resignations, 5 retirements, and 10 amendments. For the certificated portion, there were 11 appointments, 34 in-service changes, 25 leaves of absence, 6 retirements, and 1 amendment, and move approval.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Instruction?
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Finance Report A.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Finance Report B.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I recuse myself from participation in Finance Report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the payee.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have 1 abstention, so that passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Business Department Report.
Move approval.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Purchasing and Contracts Report A.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Purchasing and Contracts Report B.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I recuse myself from participation in Purchasing and Contract Report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the awardees.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Superintendent items. We have none. Okay. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. Resolution 102120-A, sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion, and I believe this is where we have Dr. Kale.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I'll provide just a little bit of context for those listening at home who may be unfamiliar with the Williams legislation. Excuse me. In May of 2000, there was a class action lawsuit filed. It was Williams versus the state of California, and the claim was that the state's poorest children were denied equal access to basics of a quality education. And in 2004, there was a package of laws that were enacted that settled the lawsuit, and so we have what is called the Williams legislation as a result of that. And the Williams legislation states that it basically expanded accountability systems around making sure that teachers are properly credentialed and assigned, ensuring equal access to safe, clean, and functional facilities, and then what we're talking about tonight, equal access to what are our board-adopted core instructional materials and texts. So this resolution is about that. What I can tell you might be also of interest to you is back in September, I came in front of you and you approved a pilot alternative process to document sufficiency. A challenge in an online environment is how can you assure that everybody has a textbook if we can't ensure that they have an internet connection. So what we did was we put a process in place to check that. So this year, students who have access to online materials, for the first time, in the past we have not been able to do this, but for the first time, we now have students who have access to online instructional materials that will allow them, a school, to say they are sufficient. So the process this year involved giving every teacher a questionnaire, and then the teachers have access to the list. And excuse me, in the board packet, pages 36 to 52, shows all of the required core instructional materials. So the teachers then certify that each student has received those. So in cases where students did not come and pick up a physical textbook, you heard from our student board member, though, that there's still a lot of physical textbooks being delivered and picked up by students. But in cases where they did not, the teachers would verify that the students had logged in Canvas, and that is something that can be verified, which would tell them that they had access to those materials. So there's a process that the sites go through to determine sufficiency. So the principals at the school site are responsible for determining that and reporting it to our office. And then we have about 17 or 18 schools that are what we call our audit schools. And those schools, we have to report individual teacher data directly to the county, and then the county follows up on that. So it's a tremendous endeavor, which you can imagine. We're required to perform it before the 8th week of instruction. And if I might, I just want to give a shout out to Nader Twal, who spent countless hours on this project starting in August, and then the whole OCIPD team working with individual schools, principals, teachers to get us to a point where we can say we do not have any insufficiencies. Sorry. So I don't know if there's any other questions you have?
I have a question about the audit, the results of the audit, and can we say definitively that all of our students have a Chromebook or device and internet?
So at the time we conducted the audit, that was the case. So in other words, each teacher had to certify that their students had checked in via Canvas and had access to instructional materials. Now, can we say between those points somebody might have come to the school and said, I now need internet access, and we're given a hotspot? I think, as some of our speakers mentioned, circumstances change. So students may have been using, let's say, their own internet and then needed more internet access again. So is there no interruptions? I don't know that we could ever track on interruptions to their internet as far as that goes, but we were able to establish at one point in time every student had it, and then, as you know, the principals and all of our schools have been working really hard when they hear that someone does not have access. So our teachers, I think, have been doing a good job to follow up on that with their principals.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. So I suffice to say that this is a more extensive Williams sufficiency report than we've ever done in the past. My understanding in the past, it was walking into a classroom, counting books and counting kids, and being able to say that every child had access to a book. So we were forced in this process to ensure and to check in with every kid. So it was a labor-intensive process that made us know what's happening with our kids in a different way than maybe previous Williams reports would around connectivity.
Right, and the combination of both the physical textbooks and the online access, depending upon the course, adds complexity.
Because last year we could have counted and said there's enough textbooks for everybody and not known that 12% of our kids needed internet access at home or didn't have access to a device. But because we're trying to do both and ensure, it's allowed a deeper connection to the needs of our families. Again, at that point in time, on the times that this was done, and we know circumstances change, so.
Yeah.
Dr. Benitez.
Yeah, I'd like to continue along the lines that Board Member Kerr was alluding to. So just for clarity, so it is, the sufficiency is accomplished through a combination of both physical access to a physical book and or an online book, or either?
Right, it could be either. So in some cases, we had the textbooks, the students came and picked up the textbooks. In other cases, if we One of the complications from last spring, when we closed schools abruptly, we did not get those textbooks back.
Right.
So there's a case like, let's say, for example, in history, where getting replacement texts for every grade level was not possible. The publishers did not have copies of the texts. However, all of our core instructional materials that have been embedded into our unit documents provide all the resources that students need, and those have been posted online for the students. So in those cases, which is why back in September we came to you when we realized, figuring all of this out as we were going along. So the answer is, in many cases it's an and, but in some cases it's an or.
Okay, so let me pause on the online question and continue with the physical hard books. So because of what you just mentioned, Dr. Kale, that some books were not returned, what is our plan, given that many students went for this year to physically pick up books, and the presumption is that for whatever the reason may be, those books will either not be returned at some point or may be damaged. What is our thinking and our plan for when we return back to school? How will we address that?
Well, when our students return back to school, we will assume they will bring their books with them as part of that process. And we often check books out to students, and they can keep those texts at home, and sometimes they have a second set that they can use in the classroom. So it's not uncommon for us to have students have textbooks all year long at home. That's not the concern. The concern is when you have a situation like last year where we weren't coming back, or in some cases, if they tried to collect materials, we just weren't ready for that last spring. So we did purchase quite a few textbooks, many textbooks to replace those that didn't come back. We just weren't able to in every case.
Sure. So now back to the online thing. Since by circumstances beyond our control, we are now more heavily dependent on the online resources, and we're all aware of the connectivity issues that we're having. What is the status right now of, do we have enough hotspots? Are there still Chromebooks and/or hotspots waiting to be deployed? How are we going about assessing that our students, although they may have connected once, that the connection is consistent, ongoing? Just sort of where are we at with the online resources?
I can talk about part of that question, and then I can defer. Part of the answer to that is teachers are letting counselors and principals know in cases where students are not connecting. So there's a process in place at our sites in which they're following up on those students to make sure it isn't just merely a hotspot issue, to find out what's going on. So that's kind of a one student at a time. As far as the larger issue around hotspots, I don't know, does someone else want to speak to that?
I can just add that we have an active order of 1,000 hotspots that we've purchased that we're waiting for and expecting really any day. We also have 1,000 hotspots coming from the county. The County Board of Supervisors made a commitment to add hotspots to, based on an assessment that our technology department did. And so we're awaiting those, and we know who needs them. The schools know who needs them. In terms of the intermittent connectivity, we're not as much of a match for that. I mean, we have students connected with their teachers. If a hotspot doesn't work, they use the office staff to reconnect with the family, and in many cases, they've exchanged hotspots. We've also experienced interference between home Wi-Fi systems and hotspots. And so one of the things that's been difficult is if a family does have Wi-Fi, it actually works better to turn the hotspot off and use the Wi-Fi if it's an active Wi-Fi network. Sometimes the interference is from a neighboring Wi-Fi. And so we've worked with our different departments, have done parent outreach, parent training, and worked specifically with the schools to connect with families on resolving those issues. But we are awaiting about 2,000 more hotspots.
So best advice right now, thank you, Dr. Baker. Best advice right now for a student and or multiple students within a household that don't have a physical copy of the textbook and were relying on the online resource is to communicate with the teacher from that school.
Yes.
And additionally, would the same communication be with the teacher for technology
Yes.
related challenges and
The
issues?
teacher or the principal, the office staffs are available for a phone call. We have families picking up materials, exchanging,
Yeah.
actively exchanging hotspots if they're not working. And then also, in some cases, families want to have the hard copy version of a
Right.
book, and that can also be picked up from the school.
Right.
Sometimes that's for preference or students' learning style.
Right.
So in addition to reading something online, they're welcome to request hard copy or book materials from their schools.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 4-0. Board Policy 4033, lactation accommodation.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion? I'm going to just wait a
Do you want to
second.
hold for Board Member Kerr to?
Yeah, we're not going to make a run to her chair, but, Ms. Kerr, did you have discussion on the board policy regarding lactation?
No, it's great to see, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Resolution 102120-B, giving notice of intent to dedicate easement to Southern California Edison at Jordan High School for deteriorated pole replacement and stabilization.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Chief Business and Financial Officer Employment Contract.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion, Dr. Baker?
Thank you. I'm pleased to recommend the extension of Ms. Yumi Takahashi's contract. This agenda item involves the renewal of the agreement for Chief Business and Financial Officer. The renewal does not increase the total amount of the district's fiscal obligations above the existing employment agreement and previous amendments, except for the extension of 1 additional year.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Yumi. We appreciate you.
Thanks for saying yes again.
Equity Policy Development Update, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. Just a brief update this evening. That we had some exciting things happen this week as promised. So the Student Thought Exchange went live on the 19th, and that is a way of seeking input from students around their ideas about equity, what would make an ideal equitable school, what do adults need to hear about the concept of equity. So that went live to all of our middle and high school students this week. We've already begun to get some really wonderful, eloquent responses, and we will be sharing the information that we gather through that thought exchange in a student-led town hall that will happen on November 2nd at 3:30. And so we will do two things at that town hall. We will share more about the information we've collected. We'll be doing a live thought exchange on that evening and then having some discussion that'll be led by several really wonderful students that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last few weeks.
A little bit more detail on that student town hall, time, location.
Absolutely. So it's going to be at November 2nd, 3:30, and it's going to be a virtual meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Meyer, but it will be held via Zoom. We have put I knew you would want to come. We will have that information available as the time draws near for those who want to access it. So you'll have all the information you need, and I really hope that you'll join us and be great listeners and participants on that night.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Something I'm really looking forward to. Second, the District Equity Leadership Team application went live today. So we have that distributed to all of our district parents. It's live on our website, and for anybody who has interest, you can access it by going to our website, and the form is available. There's an application. We've already begun receiving applications, so really looking forward to moving through that process, and thank you for all of the interest. We will close the application process on November 6th. The team will be announced on November 16th, and our first meeting will be on December 7th. So I see some of you writing. These are all dates that can be shared again, but I just want to say for the good of the group and those that are watching at home, that you can put in an application by November 6th to be announced on the 16th, and our first meeting will happen on November 7th. And then, go ahead. December 7th. Thank you. What did I say? Oh, I was going backwards in time. Thank you for your help, Letitia. And then lastly, we will also have a student equity leadership team. And we have a number of students that have already applied for participation. They expressed their interest when Dr. Baker and Ms. Lavelle led the process for gathering student advisory leadership interest. And so by October 30th, we will be inviting students to participate in an equity leadership team. And I've been asked, what is the relationship between the student team and the district team? The district team will be primarily made up of adults with some student participation. The student team will be made up of students with some adult participation. So the two will have opportunities to come together. But one of the things that I heard very strongly from students was that they wanted a student space. So we're going to move forward with that idea and just see where we get to, but really I'll be listening closely for their feedback as we go forward. So thank you so much. Any questions that you have are welcomed, and I'll be continuing to keep you updated.
Dr. Brown, I probably missed this as I was writing down the dates and then I stopped.
Sure.
A process after folks submit their application, is there a committee? Who's that made up of?
Yeah, we'll have a group that will evaluate the applications and determine the process going forward, or the applicants that will move forward with the process. So it'll be a group process and an equitable process.
Great. I got the text message, so it was awesome.
Do we have any further questions or concerns for Dr. Brown? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you. We look forward to the continuing updates. Report of board members. Start at this side. Dr. Benitez.
I don't know where to start tonight, Madam Chair. So let me just remind folks about the Panorama Education Survey that's out. We are seeking folks' perspective and feedback on our remote learning and taking those things into consideration for our reopening of school plan. We do have a plan to reopen schools. I keep hearing that, what's our plan, what's our plan? We have one. Not everyone may agree with the plan, but there is a clear plan. We spent a big chunk of our last board meeting going through our phase-in. We recommended that video go out. It did. It's out there. It's available. It's accessible. It's a very clearly delineated plan for our reopening of schools. That being the case, I do encourage everyone to complete the survey. I believe it's till the 30th of this month that the survey goes. So please, if you didn't receive the email, you can access it through Parent View. It's under surveys. It's available in languages additional to English as well. So I encourage everyone to please fill out that survey and be vigilant, because we do use that survey to inform and guide our decision making. So if folks are saying that we don't listen, well, here's an opportunity to provide input. Thank you for the update on the equity leadership team. Dr. Brown, as I mentioned, I got the text, went through the application. It's very straightforward. A few questions. So again, I encourage folks that have submitted public comments, that have prioritized equity in our conversations, to please consider applying for that. I think it was last week, we also received some updates for meals, for changes to our meal distribution. I really appreciate those. Just a few highlights. Meals are being distributed for 2 days now. So Monday, meals go out for Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, meals go out for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, you can pick up for Friday and Saturday. So thank you to our nutrition services team and staff. There's a wide window of time. We also heard folks saying there were some challenges there for picking up meals. So all of this goes back to us being responsive, particularly to our students on free and reduced lunch. I also want to encourage folks regarding that. Free and reduced lunch is not a guarantee. You have to submit your forms even though you've been picking up meals. After December, there is no guarantee that that funding will continue for us to be able to continue our meal distribution the way that we have been doing it. So if you have not let us know, if you have not submitted that form, and that form is accessible where, anyone on staff, is it on LB's USD? Parent View. Parent View. Do you know the name of the form off the top of your head, Dr. Lenz?
It says household income form.
Okay, household income form. Fill it out so that we can continue providing meals. I really want to say some things about these comments tonight, Madam Chair. I heard and read and have been reading comments like forced online learning. No one forced, particularly this district, anyone into that. We had a global pandemic. I've heard, and I've already alluded to, that we have no plan. We have a solid plan. We have a clear plan for schools to open moving forward. All of us are committed to assuring that. I spoke and shared some concerns at our last board meeting. We all have concerns, but having said that, we all know, we all realize that the best place, ultimately, educationally, for students to be is in their classroom. But that doesn't mean that we discount everything else, structurally, in terms of our health disparities, economically, in terms of the poverty that has been magnified in many of our communities, in terms of our educational attainment, the lost learning that we all recognize has taken place. And so I am disheartened to hear from community members that we are picking out of convenience not to open up schools in the way that some community members feel that we should. I was passionate at the last meeting. I'm quite frankly, I'm sad with some of the comments that have been submitted to us. I keep encouraging folks, even when I don't agree, to please keep sharing comments. Please continue to submit public comments. But it is disheartening to hear things like forced online learning. Everyone on our executive team that has spoken for the last 7 months plus has shared the same concern that online learning is not ideal, that online learning presents challenges. We are all keenly aware of the digital divide. And so I'm going to pose this as a frame of thought. We're opening up schools. It's just going to look very different, and the time frame will be dictated by our health and safety considerations. We're committed to that. I've heard from everyone, whether folks are listening or not, that is the commitment. But I want to pose this, that the energy that we're all spending, me included, and I voiced my frustrations in here and with friends and online as well. So we have those platforms, we voice our frustrations and concerns. But if we spent some energy in addressing the structural inequities around poverty, health disparities, our digital divide in our communities, and not pose that against an ultimatum to open up schools or else, all right, and that somehow we're not doing right by students because we are taking every precaution to make sure that when we open up schools, that we do it in the safest way possible with the highest regard for everyone's health, including the mental health of our students and staff. That if we spent some energy addressing the structural inequities that exist in our city and in our state and in our region, then we could have a holistic conversation with our stakeholders in true, authentic partnership with our city officials, with our public health officials. But the fact of the matter is that yesterday when I checked the COVID19.ca.gov website, that 61% of the positive cases in California are Latinx communities, even though our Latinx communities only represent 39% of the state's population. That almost 50% of our state's COVID-related deaths are our Latinx communities. Again, even though we represent 39% of the state's population. And so that when we look at our demographic profile, not just in terms of race and ethnicity, but in terms of the 2/3 of our population that is poor, in terms of the more than 10,000 students that are on IEPs, that we lead with that. That when we throw around terms like equity, that we throw them around in that context. That this is not just about reopening schools. Schools are not breweries. Schools are not salons. Schools are not malls. And I would not want to be a part of any district that would treat our schools in the same way that we're thinking about. And it's not posing, it's saying and acknowledging and reflecting and upholding that schools are different. That interactions at schools are different, that our purpose and mission is different, that the communities that we serve are different. And we have poor communities of color. Not exclusively, but the vast majority of our students are poor and students of color. So it is disheartening to hear that instead of trying to really seek allyship and partnership in doing what's right and what's best for all students, but particularly our highest needs students. We just had an update on our equity leadership team that instead of supporting each other and spending our time and energy or resources, some of us more than others have those resources, around addressing these structural inequities and supporting our district in our phase-in plans, and those may change, all right? Those may change. But again, equating the flu with COVID-19, utilizing an equity framework in the abstract and not contextualizing it with who we're serving, and not being explicit and deliberate that even if we were to consider the waiver process that I expressed many concerns about last week, as did my colleagues here, as did executive staff, that even if we went down that route, that doesn't mean that on Monday we have everything in place, all the resources, all the required criteria to open up safely for all students. And that's not even counting or taking into account our highest need students, our most vulnerable students, our students that would clearly most benefit from being back in the classroom. And I am proud that our district, contrary to some narrative that's out there, is not acting in a politicized way. It's acting with the mission, with the conviction, with the vision of doing right by all students every day and upholding the mantra, all means all. And so I would urge our parents, and I'm willing to engage you, and I know my colleagues are, and I know staff is, just to think about those things and consider those things as we talk about things like decreasing screen time and the anxiety that many of our students are facing and the fear and sense of urgency that parents and families are facing, that we are in this together, but that we have to demonstrate to each other that if we're going to throw around resources and throw around words and throw around political clout, that we do so leading with equity, as some of our staff has so eloquently already expressed. And the way that we do that is by thinking beyond our own privilege, me included, beyond our own access to resources, beyond our own ability to advocate on behalf of our own children, and include those children that have no one advocating for them, in many cases, that are perhaps in a dark apartment on a stairwell, struggling, potentially sharing a device, not being able to get to one of our schools to get a hotspot or a Chromebook because they may not have an adult in the household to be able to be with them in those exchanges and interactions. And I will leave it there, Madam Chair. I got a lot more to say, but
Thank
I'll leave
you.
it there.
I appreciate everything you've said. Mr. Meyer?
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to begin excursions with my board replacement, Mr. Doug Otto, today. We have collaborated on a letter to all schools in District 4, and I'm personally escorting Doug to meet the principals and listen to their concerns and get acquainted. So today, we visited Dal Lawson at Lowell and Tracy Fiala at Fremont and Chris Lounsbury, Chris at Fremont and Tracy at Mann Elementary Schools. Great visits. And I have a strong bias, and everyone knows it. The teachers working from their classroom are dynamic. I have no way to judge or to evaluate what happens when teachers are not working in their school site dealing with students. So I applaud those teachers and was very excited to see the work that they're doing. Our excursions end on November 2nd. We will have visited every school, and I am greatly impressed with Doug Otto. He will fit in very nicely with this Board of Education, the colleagues I'm so proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo Dr. Benitez's comments about our practices. I do understand the frustrations of the parents, and given the circumstances that we're in and having to rebalance their lives, I know that's got to be a crazy sort of situation that they're experiencing. And how that comes out, how that is relayed, how that is talked about. But it is unconscionable to me for us to even lose one student in this district to this pandemic. And I want our staff to know that I support your efforts on behalf of our kids, what you think you have to do in any given moment to make sure that our kids are safe. And I know you take a lot of this direct hit from parents with phone calls, emails, all kinds of things. But I want you to know that I support fully the steps that you're taking to protect our kids. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Board Member Kerr.
Yeah, I'll continue on that note. Actually, no, I'll go to my other stuff first. I want to congratulate Glenn Perez Rodriguez, who did a fantastic job representing Long Beach Unified School District at the Council of Great City Schools annual conference last week on their student panel on race and equity. Glenn was joined by 9 other students from around the country to have a really open discussion about what it looks like to talk about race and racial equity at their schools and what their experiences are. Things they think their schools are doing well, things they think their schools need to do better. And they talked about everything from everyday experiences to policy implications. They were spectacular, and Glenn was a shining example of the good work that's happening here. He was honest and clear about work we need to do and work he'd like to see us continue to do. And one of the things I think he said that was poignant and was also echoed later after the official webinar was over, they kept on the Zoom call so you could hear the kids debrief with each other, and it was fantastic. But one of the things that resonated that he said with his peers was the idea that sometimes adults think that because they're younger, they don't understand the complexity of what's happening around racial equity and race in this country, and that they really want the adults to engage with them, understanding that they're ready to have those hard conversations. So I was super proud of Glenn and how he represented us, and I love that they all want to continue to be engaged with each other somehow, whether they were going to connect via email, but even the council looking at this group of students and saying we need to learn from them and we need to figure out how to harness what happened in that panel. So congratulations to Glenn and his peers in that panel. I'll echo the comments around the Panorama survey. Please take it. Some of the things that I've heard is that people feel like it really gives them an opportunity to be heard. It isn't just a quick check the box, but it gave a real opportunity to engage and share concerns and suggestions with staff. So I encourage everyone at every level to take that. I would love it if we could get the student equity thought exchange link just so that we can continue to push that out. I will also push folks to fill out the income verification form. It isn't just about meals. That income verification form, when we talk about local control funding formula and our LCAP dollars, that's the measure of how many students we have in this district that qualify for additional support from the state. So it isn't just if you think you're going to utilize meals and maybe you're not going to utilize meals, but it helps us know how many students are living at an income level that allows them to get extra support dollars from the state. So please fill out the income verification form, even if you don't think you're one of those students. You might be, and we know that families have had circumstances change over the last 7 months that may allow us to get additional resources to help support your students. So please fill that out. Like Dr. Benitez, I have a lot of thoughts on public comment and the COVID conversation that's happening here and on social media. And one of the things I want to remind people is schools are not just kids. So we can talk about kids and how they're impacted by a virus, but school communities are way more than just students. So we have staff members of all ages, from late teens or teenagers who come to do tutoring, to staff members who are very veteran staff members in this district who have served their entire careers here. So it's not just about thinking what happens when we bring students 5 to 18 onto a campus, is how does that impact an entire community that is multi-aged with different circumstances in terms of pre-existing conditions. One of the things we knew in California is that doing that well and having a good response to a global pandemic that our national government has not had a good response to is that it was always going to look like we overreacted. So here we are in California as a state with declining numbers, thank God, feeling safer because we have declining numbers, but understanding that nationally it is skyrocketing all over. 38 states had increases in COVID cases today, and those are states that didn't have a good response early on. For whatever reason, they chose not to take measures to keep people safe. And so now we have students who have gone back to school who are closing schools all over the country as the rates continue. So as Dr. Benitez said, there is a plan, and there is an incredibly thoughtful plan, because we don't want to bring folks back and close. So as the public knows, there was a closure of the Dooley Elementary campus in its entirety. So that was administration who was on site, teachers who were teaching in classrooms, and the only students on that site were CDC students. So because of 2 cases, that campus was closed. So it feels safe till you get a letter or a notification that a school a quarter mile from your house has now closed and staff is quarantining. We have another CDC classroom at Grant Elementary that is closed, and they are quarantining. So that's 2 schools in 90805. That's just 2 schools with just our little ones on campus and just our adults on campus. So while some communities I respect feel safe and feel like we've kind of moved on from this and we're gonna wait it out, the families that I represent don't necessarily feel safe today. They feel like COVID's right in their backyard, as it has been from the beginning, because of the things that Dr. Benitez spoke about and disproportionate impact. So it might not feel like COVID's around some folks because they haven't had anyone get really sick. They're fortunate to not have lost someone they know. Some of us have. So when we think this through, we are thinking it through every single moment, through every complicated lens to bring kids back, because our mission is to educate kids. That's what all of us are in this room to do. But it just looks different educating kids right now. So I appreciate Dr. Brown's message that we can do hard things. And the hard thing is not bringing all of our kids back. We want our kids to learn. But I've watched school communities, even without anybody there, being devastated to have to close their site. So if we open a site tomorrow and it closes in a week, that does something to kids and families and staff and their perception of their safety. So there's a plan. It is a slow and thoughtful plan that has kids and staff and adult health at the center of it, but always driving everything that we do is educating kids. At the end of the day, everyone in this room is here because they care about educating kids, not because they wanted to be a health officer, not because they wanted to know about COVID rates and infection rates and how to be a contact tracer. They're here because we deeply believe that every child deserves to thrive in a safe, supportive school environment. And everybody in this room is committed to that. That's all I got.
Thank you. I don't really have anything to add because I feel like between the other board members, they've pretty much covered it. I will just, I don't want to belabor the point, but as a board member, we take a look at the district as a whole. We don't just serve, I don't just serve the 5th district. I am as interested in kids in the 1st district or 3rd district or 2nd or whatever, then, I think of all the students as the students we serve, not just 5th district. So even though I live in an area of Long Beach where the houses are not as close together as, say, apartment buildings or, multifamily dwellings, that type of thing, and maybe in my neighborhood the case rate is lower, any of these things, that doesn't affect how I think of kids across the district. The decisions that this board makes is for all kids. And not just all kids, but as it was said, it's for the adults at the school campus also. It's not just the teachers in the classrooms, it's the administrators, it's the classified employees. We have people that come in the classrooms that help disinfect and keep things clean. We have to watch out for everybody. We care about everybody that's on a school campus. I know we've all been inundated with email messages. I'm not on social media. I can't imagine being bombarded on social media as well as the constant emails I receive. But I have to say, mixed in with some of the comments that we heard tonight about, why we should reopen the day after Thanksgiving or whatever it is, we also get emails from people who are saying, thank you for keeping our kids safe. Thank you for making health and safety a priority. And as it was said before, we've got a plan. We've got a solid plan. All you have to do is look online. You can listen to any of our board members, board meetings where we're talking about that plan. I think it was a good suggestion that we revisit that every meeting. I think we have to because people are just hearing what they want to hear. And people are accusing us of not doing our jobs because we're not making the decisions they want us to make. I don't think that's a fair assessment. I don't think that's fair to say, you're not doing your job just because you're not doing it the way I want you to do it. So let's all take a step back. Let's try and think of somebody else instead of just ourselves, our own families. I know this board leads not just with our heads, but our hearts. And that's something that you can't teach somebody to do. It's either there or it's not. I am so proud to be a part of this district. I am so proud to be a part of this board because I feel that we are leading in the right way. I feel that we are making very prudent decisions, decisions that need to be made, courageous decisions, difficult decisions. And we're doing that. That is the job that we've been entrusted to do, and we're doing it. We're taking care of business. I hope that our staff feels supported because we support you. We know how much work you've put into everything. We know the burden that you've had to carry. This isn't easy for anybody. Nobody wanted to close schools, and it's not our fault that we're in the midst of a pandemic. Yes, there are some good numbers. If you look at some of the data is good. But you look at other numbers and you realize there is a surge. This pandemic is not going away, and so we have to plan accordingly. We just can't sit back and say, I hope it's going to be better next week, or I hope it's going to be better the week after that. No, we have to plan for what's happening now. We have to plan for a virus that is mutating. We have to be nimble. We have to be prepared. We are all those things. We are all those things. So I will just end by saying we are a nonpartisan board. We are elected officials, nonpartisan. However, I'm going to say vote because we have an election coming up. So yes, November 3rd, and you can vote early. There are ballot boxes. Make sure they're official ballot boxes. And vote. This is a responsibility we all have. So let's see, I guess with that, we'll move to the superintendent report.
Thank you. Let me just start by thanking you for just publicly affirming the district's commitment to reopen schools in a phased-in, safe plan. We are all committed to getting students back into our buildings, and you heard in the last meeting the beginning of that, and we will continue to phase students in. We also are working on several different ways of creating a sense of transparency, more transparency, including a COVID dashboard on our website so that when there are issues of COVID, when there's a response needed, which happens on a weekly basis, some, including classroom or school closure, that will be public information in a new way. So that is yet to come. I want to end the meeting where we started, which is featuring one of our students. So our CAM student left to go do her homework and to get ready for tomorrow. But how nice it was to have Sasha Hernandez from CAMS with us today to remind us about why we do this work and what our why is, that it really is about our students. Just want to echo Ms. Kerr's sentiment about Glenn Perez Rodriguez and add that he is one of 2 Californians for Justice youth leaders who I'm going to name tonight. So he has took on this new role of being on a panel. He continues to do really exceptional work at Lakewood High School in uplifting youth voice, including being on the instructional leadership team at his school. Another Californians for Justice youth leader in Megan is one of our co-facilitators for the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee, which had its first meeting last week. And we had 2 co-chairs that led most of the meeting with Ms. Lavelle and me for discussion, relationship building, and for a process to have students advise on the larger work of the district. Similar to the end of the panel, when we ended the meeting at 5:10, we asked for permission to go 10 minutes over. The students stayed on to talk with each other, to exchange email, to exchange phone numbers in a way that was really just Just really beautiful to see. Students from every single campus, large high schools, small high schools, alternative high schools, independent study high schools, are all represented in that committee. So I will open the invitation to you all. Our next meeting is November 17th. If you'd like to come in and give greetings to our students, they would love to see you and just feel supported for the work that they are going to do. And so you can tell that this is a year of trying to center students and to uplift student voice in new ways while there are so many struggles happening for our students and our families. We expect to have students in so many different spaces than we've been able to in the past, and I look forward to that. So that's my report for tonight.
Dr. Baker, did you say November 17th?
November 17th, the Superintendent Student Advisory will meet between 3:30 and 5.
So we're not going all day with our board workshop then?
It's after board workshop.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
I'm glad we decided to participate in the student panel discussion.
Yes.
Also, Dr. Baker, were you going to include an update on our phone system?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the prompt. Yes. So the next meeting, we will have the call-in system. There was a question about that in public testimony tonight. The call-in system is ready to launch. All of the information has been recorded in 3 languages so that the public can call in. Our website will be updated with all of that call-in information prior to the next posting of the board meeting, so community members can actually voice their public testimony on the call-in system for the next meeting.
Thank you. And so just to clarify, we are switching to the phone system, and we will no longer be accepting the online submissions for public comment, just to let people know.
Right, that is correct. We will have in-person and we will have a call-in system. And as is always true, if a member of the public wants to write to you to personally inform you of something or to just provide you with their perspective, they can continue to do that, but it will not be considered part of the public testimony at the board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, announcements.
Yes, Madam Chair. Go Dodgers.
Adjournment?
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have another
I do.
announcement? I'm sorry.
So Rotary Club of Long Beach is hosting a community food drive. More than 20% of Long Beach College students don't know where their next meal will come from. So at Long Beach State and Long Beach City College both have food pantries for students to access. So the Rotary Club is supporting these college students right now, and there is an opportunity for you to participate by donating high-need items. They will have a drive-through drop-off this Saturday, October 24th from 9 to noon at Cal State Long Beach and at the Clark Avenue campus of Long Beach City College. So if you are headed to the grocery store, to a Costco, to a big box store, and you can pick up some of the high-need items, which you can imagine are pasta, sauce, peanut butter and jelly, granola bars, oatmeal, those kinds of things. Please consider doing so. You can go to the Rotary Club's website, you can scan it, they've got a grocery list, has the drop-off locations. But we have students accessing this. Our former LBUSD students are accessing these food pantries on their college campuses, and this is a great way for the community to support. So thank you to Rotary for encouraging us to do that, and I encourage people to do that. We will be here after Election Day. Please vote. Please drop your ballot, sign up for Ballot Tracker if you're worried about it. It works wonderfully. Go vote.
Thank you. Any further announcements?
President Craighead, may I just also announce that we will resume this week community messaging. So I will have a message out to the community this week, both in written and in a video that will go out to the community.
Thank you. How about adjournment?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, thank you, everybody. And we.